The Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies, 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 babies. Hi, everyone. I'm sad today. Hi, everyone. I'm sad. My Mystics.
Didn't even get a home game.
Nah. Is that how that works?
Best of three, better team gets the first two games.
Oh.
And they get the third if they had forced it.
If you force it.
Yeah, I actually had tickets to go had they made it that far.
That seems odd.
That's first round of the WNBA.
So
Best
the
of three,
team
best
with
of
the
five.
worst record would get the deciding game at home?
Correct. Yeah.
That seems unfair to the team that had the...
Other team gets the first two home games. And
just win them
it
both?
Worked, yeah. Clearly worked against them.
All right, whatever. I don't want to get into a whole thing about the setup of the WNBA playoffs. I'm sad, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm sad. Rough sports weekend here. If preseason games bother you, because that one, if those bother you, and they shouldn't that much,
right?
But if they do, that wasn't great. The other day. That wasn't great.
I tried to skew into it's preseason. I'm not going to panic too much, but the more and more I watched, it was very pedestrian.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I also feel weird. I haven't been in here in feels like 5-6 days, something like that.
It
right?
has been 5 days.
Yeah, because we were off Wednesday, Thursday, and then I mailed in the show on Friday.
That's right.
How'd that go? Okay.
It's good. Yeah.
I was flying.
Filled in the cracks.
Got it. Good.
Yeah.
And now we're back here today.
Yes, that's
full week, unless the Orioles get a rain out. Hi, everyone.
That's not going to happen.
Oh. Anyway, so, I try not to get too upset about preseason games, too.
Mm-hmm.
That one wasn't great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more concerned about the defense than the offense, albeit I think the offense is getting a little bit of a pass because of how shredded the defense was for a quarter plus when Mahomes was toying with them. Right.
Yeah.
The offense also got across the 50 multiple times and couldn't score.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little problematic too. And I think it wasn't the headline because Mahomes was on pace for 700 yards passing.
We also got our first taste of old Carson's knack for sometimes just making the wrong decision.
Yeah. There were a couple. He said it afterwards, a couple I would have liked to have had back.
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah, there were a couple.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me start with the defense. And then I'll get to the news today, which all the good news was Logan Thomas came back. So that was, I still actually don't think he's playing week one, but that's just me. We'll have to see.
Yeah,
but this is good news that they put him up.
Hell of a brace he walked out with on.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah, it's a step. I don't know that this means he's playing week one, but it does mean he's coming back sooner rather than later. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's good. Anyway, and by the way, Commander's Daily today, I have an interview with him off his first practice in 9 months. So you'll hear from him and how he's feeling as he got back out there. All right. Let me start with the defense. I think that's the headline here. So here's why I think I'm upset. Right? So I'm pretty measured with the preseason stuff. And in general, again, the starters played actually upwards of a half, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Mahomes left because they were just destroying them. And I think Andy Reid had probably pretty much seen enough. I try not to get too bent out of shape about them because in a week their record will be 0-0, and if they beat Jacksonville, no one's going to remember that they lost a preseason game at Kansas City. Like, who's going to care, really? But being that the Chiefs took it seriously and played their starters for a good amount of time, and being that we did as well, and being that that's a measuring stick team, whether you're game planning or not for them or they're game planning for you or not, like that's a team that wins 12 games every year. This is one of those, I think, minor moments where not looking like that would have meant something to me. And defensively, they had no answer for them at all. Like none. They had the blitz to get a pass rush on them, which is, tough to deal with because, look, at some point, this front four, while I don't expect four guys to make hay on every play, at some point they kind of have to do it a little bit on their own. And, I'm not upset that Mahomes did the crazy sidearm, one-footed whatever, that stuff he does. And the separating pass for me with him that I'm not upset about was they blitzed St. Juice off the edge, hit him on a 3rd and 10, and he hit some number 4 receiver who's never going to play on a dime down the middle of the field. Like, that's why he's who he is. So I'm not upset about those moments, but all of the rest of it, which is he just diced them. They had no disguise for him at all. The pass rush needs blitzing to get home. And it concerns me because when we don't have a lot of quarterbacks like that on our schedule this year,
sure.
Fortunately, not unlike last year. But in this case, when you want to find out, are you ready to make a jump? Well, you have to be competitive with teams like that to show that you're about to make a jump. And I know it was only a quarter plus, but they weren't.
Right.
They're just not competitive with him. That was... It was bad. And who knows what would have happened for 3 more quarters had they just kept going. And that's why I don't want to go too crazy about it. But off of the Carolina game, I actually felt when I rewatched it, I felt better about everything. I'm like, you know what? They made a bunch of mistakes and it's a million different people. And if you go look at real metrics, you'd see they played pretty well, actually. In this case, that was not good. And you didn't go back and rewatch it. They were getting slaughtered. I mean, just absolutely slaughtered by him.
The one that got me was on the first touchdown when he got down into the red zone. The defense just, you could feel, was like, all right, we're just going to let them score. Or there was just this air of inevitability. I don't know if you felt the same way, but that shouldn't happen ever, and it was happening with the starters in. That's where it's troubling for me, is that they got there, and then they didn't even seem like they were going to make the stand, essentially. And that's where, to me, how the defense was playing in the whole preseason was troubling.
Yes. It was bad. And again, I don't want to make too much of it. It's a preseason game, but that team took it seriously that they played. And they're really good. And we didn't look that way to them. We didn't. We didn't look competitive with them.
Right.
Rivera's made a big deal about the pass rush lanes. He was making a big deal to me last week when I was talking to him about it. And how many times, even with the backups, were these gaping holes in the middle of the line where this third-string quarterback was running? And he wasn't running because he was spooked and it just took off. No, there were these wide gaping holes that he just took advantage of and was running through. And then early in the game, while Mahomes got rid of the ball very quickly on most of the plays, so it's kind of hard to judge the pass rush, the same things were happening. There was one play I saw where it looked like Obata was trying to run a game with either Payne or Allen. I can't remember who, but Payne or Allen didn't know that he was doing that. And he ran inside, and then at the last second, he's like, oh crap, and he was supposed to go outside. Yeah. So I think we're back to the coordination on the D-line seems a little messed up. At some point in the middle of last year, it got fixed. But right now, and Rivera's saying it again, it is alarming that it's happening. It's the same problem that they were talking about a year ago. And even he said to me last week, he's like, we've been working on this for 2+ years, and it's been hard to get all of this through. So I don't know what to say about it. I'm trying not to be too upset about it because it's a preseason game.
Sure.
But I just thought defensively, that was tough to just spin. If you're just trying to spin that as that didn't mean anything, whatever, I think it's hard to do that. Offensively, I'll go full spin mode for you if you want, because I think there's a lot of mitigating factors that were happening the other day. They went in with a plan that they literally couldn't do because of manpower. So we can talk about that in a minute. But defensively, and I still feel this way, I know they have a lot of new weapons, and I know they're got an upgraded quarterback, and I see, them being competitive is not just based on the defense being really good. The offense needs to carry its weight and probably should this year. But I still feel like it's the defense that's going to take them as far as they're going to go. And that was not a good sign. I mean, it wasn't. It really was not a good sign. I think that's why I think I'm sensitive to it, because I'm watching this going, all right, I know it's a preseason game, but you guys just got skewered by him. And he is the gold standard of the NFL. And he was on pace for 600 and some yards passing against you. That's not good.
Right.
They were 14-0 in a blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Those were 2 long drives, 80-plus yard drives.
Well, as I said, an air of inevitability.
Yes.
Which you just cannot have.
This is also 2 weeks in a row that they were down double-digit points in the first quarter.
Right.
I mean, these are the same things that keep happening. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, they come out slow. They get behind. These are the starters, okay? These are the starters. Second half, same thing. They have trouble stopping people or moving the ball early. Like they start, this 4 halves now. They start slow. And I don't know, I just looked at that team and I went, well, if you're really going to be competitive in this league, you have to be competitive with them.
Right.
And, for a short stint when the starters were out there, they just weren't.
Yes, right.
They weren't.
No, exactly.
It's not good.
No, it's troubling, and everyone's asking questions about Jack Del Rio at this point. I think it's rightfully so. I mean, I'm not going to overreact to a preseason game, but if this continues for the first 2 weeks of the season, especially against the opponents that they've got, we're going to have a bigger discussion about what happens in the first month of the season, I think.
Maybe. I'm not there on that, and I don't get even a whiff of anything like that, but it was not a great showing, and I don't know what the fix is, and the problem also with, the defense is, you can tell me you're hiding stuff on offense, and I believe you from what I've seen in practice. Right. I believe that. There's no hiding things on defense.
Right.
There's no such thing.
No guys going half speed or not using techniques that he shouldn't be.
No.
It's all at least in preseason you're at least man on a man. And
yes,
they've not played well.
They've not played well.
Either of the teams that they've played against.
The bright spot people are Kendall Fuller was tested numerous times and was very good again. Yeah. And this has been a transfer over from camp. He's just been outstanding at camp, so that's a good sign. I think William Jackson's having a much better camp. I think he's a key for them to be back to the defense that I think they can be. So I think he's been better. Jamin Davis looks better. There was a clip of him getting blown up. I don't know if you've seen this, of some guard or something that blindsided him. He didn't see it coming, and literally it was one of those almost cartoonish knocked out of the screen type of hits. But outside of that, he's been better, and that's been kind of coming along. But they can't get the type of sustained pressure that is necessary. And this is 2 weeks in a row that 2 quarterbacks came in, and essentially 3 quarterbacks if you count Darnold, and just kind of just destroyed them. And I mean, I don't know what the fix is, but they better figure it out. I mean, I know that they're not playing Pat Mahomes, the first few weeks of the season, but this isn't good. This isn't good. It's repetitive from a year ago, and I do think it is concerning. I do. Offensively, I feel a little differently. They wanted to play everybody for half. There was no way they were going to be able to do it. 2 of the players who were playing were Lucas and Roulier, who were both making their debuts of the summer. Both were coming off health issues, one more serious than the other. Roulier's was serious. They had him on a pitch count going. We knew this going in. They told us we're going to put him on a pitch count. They were without both of their starting guards, and we thought it was possible at some point Cosme was going to have to move to play guard because it was an emergency situation. But they also don't have another tackle, actually. So that being the case, and that being the fact that they had one healthy tight end, or 2, this guy Eli Wolf and Rodgers, 2 healthy tight ends, I was like, don't even put these people out there.
Right.
You're going to get them killed.
Right.
At least call Andy Reid and say, please put Chris Jones on the bench, which he did, thankfully.
Yeah, right.
Take it easy. We're in bad shape. This guy, Aaron Montero, who I paid no attention to throughout camp, started the other day and then played the rest of the game at the opposite guard position. That happened. They're on center 3 and 4 again. Mm-hmm. The good news was today, Schweitzer, Norwell, and Leno, who was a surprise that missed the game the other day, were all there again, all in pads, not doing the team stuff, but at least there. So I feel a little bit better about all of that. But so for me, for the offense, while I'm disappointed they didn't get results, especially when they were in Kansas City's territory, that whole thing to me was, if they survived it, and I think they did in general, that was a win. So whatever they wanted to do, there's no way they could literally implement all of it based on the personnel. And so I feel like that was just an unfortunate wasted opportunity based on manpower. So it's hard for me to have a real judgment of the offense. I just don't think it's fair to. I would have liked to have seen them convert a couple of those third downs, especially in Kansas City territory, because like I said about the defense, in a real game, when you're playing a team like that, you will lose if you do not convert the 3rd and 6 at the 40-yard line, because they score too much.
That's right.
So this was one of those situational moments where, yes, I wish there were more conversions. And in Carson Wentz's case, I wish there was a couple better decisions in those spots. But outside of that, I have a hard time really criticizing the offense because I think they had to scale back literally everything they wanted to do out of fear for injury because of an offensive line that should not look like that on opening day. Yeah. So I'm willing to ease up on any real criticisms of them. I just don't think it'd be fair to criticize them.
And the number one thing I'm looking at is how Wentz is playing. And Wentz, while he took a terrible sack, I thought he made a couple good throws again, too, where it looked like he knows where Terry McLaurin's going to be. He knows where Dotson's going to be.
It's building.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. Like, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think we just got a taste of what Wentz could do if things go bad. And
yes,
but I think I knew that before this game was happening.
And it's every quarterback.
Yeah.
Frankly, that's every quarterback. I actually feel like 2 weeks into this playing, I actually feel way better about him than I did after 2 weeks of camp, where I had all the questions and the baggage and the inconsistency in camp.
Yep. Actually,
through these first couple of preseason games, I actually feel like he's way more in control than I gave him credit for. So I feel good about him, actually. I feel like, there's going to be mistakes. Yep. If you think he's going 20 for 21 for 358 yards and 7 touchdowns, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? So, there's going to be mistakes, and especially with a line like that and all these new pieces, and I want to give them a break here. The other good development was, or I don't know, interesting development, as Ron Rivera would like to say, interesting development.
That's right, interesting or important.
Okay, all right. Stop telling me you weren't sending a message to Antonio Gibson. You were.
Right.
He took the opening kickoff back. And then if you tell me he's been doing this all along, how did I never notice that?
Right.
No, he hasn't.
No, he hasn't.
And then, if you want to just kind of just stop this nonsense about who starts, who doesn't start, and I actually don't think the coaches care because they have gone back to, we've been saying all along they're both going to play. It's not like they're not going to both play. But the starting running back was Brian Robinson. So if you're trying to stop that storyline from manifesting itself, you're not doing a very good job of stamping it down. In fact, all you're doing is really kind of bringing it out. That said, what you saw Gibson do was the role they're going to put him in. And it is going to be a big role. Like, there is no, he's not going to play or he's on the outs or anything like that. He is a weapon. He is a tremendous player in space. I have felt this way for 2 years. I thought the Curtis Samuel injury hurt them in a way because I think they would have utilized him more out of the backfield had Samuel been available to them. When he wasn't, and they made some decisions like cutting a veteran like Peyton Barber, they started to have to lean on him as a primary running back, and it's not the spot where he's going to excel. And I think we've just kind of reached this point where that fumble was eye-opening enough that they went, you know what? This rookie knows how to play the position in the way we want him to play the position, and let's just get Gibson the ball in space as much as possible. And one of the catches he made, he dodges a defender, and it looks like it's going to the house. He can be a devastating impact player for them in space, so it's going to be up to them for them to figure that out with him. And it doesn't mean he's not going to run the ball. Of course he is. At times he will. I just think we now know Brian Robinson is going to carry the ball a lot. And so alert your fantasy draft. Brian Robinson's going to carry the ball a lot in the traditional sets. When Gibson comes in, we'll see. And I do think they're more inclined to, while I'm sure they'll do inside handoffs to him and try to get some counter stuff and get him a hole somewhere, they're more inclined to swing something out of the backfield to him, try to get him in space. And that's where of all the weapons that they have, he's the one that I think could be the game breaker of all of them. Because he's the one that catches a 5-yard pass and turns it into a 60-yard play.
Right, of course.
He's the one that does that.
Yeah.
So I still think he has a really big role. And maybe this is a relief for him, maybe. In the end, it might be. Maybe not to his agent, but to him, it might be because he's more inclined to make bigger plays if they utilize him correctly than the way they had. And I think we're at a point where they've just lost trust that he's going to run the ball between the tackles the way they want him to, and he's just too loose with it. And turnovers will kill you. And so it felt like a major shift happened really. This is the second major shift that happened real fast, like overnight. And they keep saying it didn't. But I don't believe that. It's like hard to believe that. Like, if they told me Sam Mills was going to be fired 6 months ago, I would have believed it. It felt overnight that he was just gone. And this is the second time now, Antonio Gibson fumbled the ball, and they're like, that's it. And just like, that was it. Shut the door on it. So don't cross that group right now. You do anything to cross that group right now, they turn the boat sideways fast on you right now.
One thing I will get a little cynical about, though, is this is the second thing this offseason, though, where Rivera seemingly doesn't just make a decision. He doesn't make a decision, and it kind of goes a little sideways on him. Like, I look at it from what I talked about a couple weeks ago, where Matt Ioannidis didn't want to be here, which we don't know why still, but then, maybe it had to do with the coach. We don't know, whatever. But he releases him, right? Then they have to draft a defensive...
That one's complicated. I could give you more context on that. So it's complicated.
But either way, they have to then replace him with a second rounder high in the draft to replace him on the roster.
Well, the mistake there was not re-signing Settle.
Correct.
Ioannidis was likely on his way out, partially because he was making real money.
Right.
And obviously, they got a lot of defensive linemen making a lot of money. His future here is, there wasn't much of it.
Yeah.
And there was friction between him and the defensive line coach and techniques and all that stuff.
Right.
And so that one didn't, like, at the moment, I was like, oh, because he's a good player.
Yeah.
So when you cut a good player and you don't see it coming, that's always a surprise.
Yes.
But then in context of everything, I'm like, this makes sense. And then knowing what I know, it makes sense.
But
the one that was the mistake to me was Settle, because he didn't make a lot of money.
Yes.
So why in the world you didn't retain him did not make a lot of sense to me.
Correct. And then you ended up firing the defensive line coach 2 weeks into camp anyways.
Yes.
It's like...
What's happening?
What's happening here? So then,
I think there's a lot of pressure.
This is not that extreme,
yes.
But still, you drafted a running back high. You have told us Gibson was the starter. This guy's going to contribute. But now, literally one preseason game in, that's not the case. Oh, and by the way, you did sign that J.D. McKissick guy away from Buffalo to bring him in. So what does his role turn into now? Because now it seems like Gibson and him are doing almost the same exact thing. I'm just saying, this is just another one of those decisions where it's not working out, and instead of taking a side, he didn't take a side, and it's seemingly going sideways.
What this all feels like to me, and I don't know for sure, but it just, in being around it for a long time, it feels like people are feeling a lot of pressure.
Do we know why? Because I feel like it's self-pressure.
I agree.
Because
I said this from January on, when he kind of weirdly put himself on the hot seat.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there going, nobody's pressuring you that way.
Nobody.
There's not a whiff of that. Yeah, if you go 4-13, there's going to be a lot of questions to answer for sure. But I don't think that's going to happen. And you're also your own boss, which is really interesting too. And he kind of did that. And then, after they got Wentz, I went, well, that's risky.
Slightly, yeah.
It's risky. And then they've made some decisions here. And some of them I totally get, and some of them like Settle that, sometimes don't seem like a big deal at the time, but felt like a big deal to me and may be a big deal, here in the long term. And now all of a sudden we're in camp and they're like, everything's fine. And then a guillotine falls.
Right.
And you're like, what's that? And it's like everybody's real jumpy, or somebody's tweeting. It's a Twitter murder of Scott Abraham. Like there's just a lot of... There's just a lot of like
knives out.
There are so there's a lot of, and it's self-pressure, because the weird part is nobody in the national media thinks they're going to do anything.
That's right.
So that's not happening. Nobody's saying they're going to, a couple people say they're going to win the division, and then they get laughed at, or like if someone says they might be an up-and-comer, they're like, well, that's an interesting theory.
Right.
There's nobody sitting around going, like Buffalo, like, if you don't win it this year, you guys are the worst. Like, there's none of that.
Well, in fact, it's twofold, though, in their favor, in that everyone goes, oh, they're not going to do much, but everyone goes, we like that Ron Rivera guy, though. He's really going to hopefully turn it around. Like, there's no pressure.
There's last week they, Jason was fed up with the sensitivity of Wentz and went to his defense, right? And I felt like it was an overreaction, like especially some of the things that he had said. I hear what he was saying about some of it, but I thought it was an overreaction.
Going after
right?
Scott Abraham's character.
It was a little
much.
Calling his career what he called it was a little much. So it was an overreaction. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then we've had a couple things here that feel very. Everybody's jumpy.
Guys.
Everybody's a little jumpy. So I don't know what's going on, but I just get this air of they feel pressure to win, which I don't think is a bad thing. Because the last couple of years, the first year, Rivera was sick. And he also was, in the midst of what was a wreck here and all the headlines that were, it was a maelstrom. He walked into a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And I think the expectations were low. And he honestly, with 7 wins and luckily winning the division, exceeded them, honestly.
Right.
And even remember, we were like, don't apologize for winning the division.
Right.
That don't happen around here that often.
Of
don't
course.
apologize for that. And he came back, and even last year, though, he took the pressure off and was like, guys, we need to have some realistic expectations, right? Not this time.
Right.
This time, he keeps telling us it's all going to be fine, and it's all going to be fine to a point where we are going to move forward. And it's like they're pressuring themselves.
Yes.
To do this, and you can feel it. They fired an assistant coach in the middle of camp. Antonio Gibson fumbled the ball in the first preseason game. They benched him and changed his role overnight. Overnight, changed his role.
It's like going, I think we've all been here before, where you're either at a dinner party or like a cookout or something, and things are like kind of going sideways a little bit. You're like, let's just order some KFC. Let's order some Popeyes real quick. But like the propane's gone out, meat looks still frozen, like. Everything's going wrong that can go wrong, and everyone's like, hey, be cool. We're all chilling. We're all having a beer. Like, let's just order something. We'll be all right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the host is like, no. Got to do it this way.
Yeah.
Or else we're going to freak out here.
You're going to freak out.
Everybody's like, no, man, we're all just hanging out. That's how it feels right now.
It does. The pressure feels self-inflicted. Obviously, everybody wants them to win. Obviously, I think they have a competitive team. I've been talking about this for months. Like, I think they could be a 9-10 win team, and that's probably the playoffs in the NFC this year. One way or the other, it probably is. And I still feel like that could happen. But the pressure in mid-August feels a little accentuated. And maybe it's just, and Rivera said it from the get-go, I think he is feeling some kind of self-inflicted, I've got to do better win now. And if these guys aren't following me down that path, I am going to knife them, along the way. So I think everybody ought to know this is serious this time around. This is he's serious. Like, let's go. We need to do it this way. Let's go. And I don't know how many more messages he could send in a couple of weeks.
The other thing, too, is they have not even let anyone try to touch the narrative of their best defensive player is going to be out for question mark.
But he doesn't want to hear it about that. I don't blame him, honestly. Like, they have 3 other first-round picks on their defensive line.
Sure.
Like, I'm sorry, you can't survive without him for a few weeks? If you can't, that's a bigger problem on you.
I'm just saying.
Like, you should be, with the schedule that you have, bare minimum 2-2, if not 3-1, when he may first come back, right? And I don't even know that that's a guarantee, but and then if you're 3-1 and he comes back, oh boy, let's go.
Right. But I'm just saying, your guy that did win defensive rookie of the year, and then
I hear you.
Was out last year. I'm just saying, could be used.
No team outside of a quarterback is one player, though.
Yeah,
nobody.
That's fair.
And I don't feel. I don't know, but there is like this pressure that is mounting. Whoo, boy, it's too early for this.
I agree.
It's too early for this. I can't take it. I'm suffocated. But you know what, though? There is also a part of me that goes, you know what? Expecting some results, that's a new one around here. And frankly, I don't mind that. Aren't we in the business of winning anyway? Shouldn't we be pressuring these guys to perform? Isn't 7 wins not good enough?
It's the Memorial Day cookout, though. You got all summer. Like, first one goes wrong.
Yeah.
We're all right.
You burned a hot dog. It's
all right.
fine.
It's June.
I got a whole pack of them over here. It's cool.
Right. Out of propane. Hey, all right, man.
Just go down the street. They got more.
We'll go get some more. We can order something.
Yeah.
No.
No.
It has to be this way.
This way. That thing of propane works. Woo. I can't take it. It's too early for this. I like when the pressure ramps up in week 4 or 5.
It's also a little chaotic to see what they do and don't care about the most, too. Like, clearly,
what do you mean?
Like, clearly running back
Yeah.
now is this huge deal. Like, yes, fumbling the ball is a big deal. I get it.
Yeah.
But I just thought Gibson had earned himself a little bit more of a, hey, yeah, he's still going to be our starter for right now.
You know, it's funny, though. After seeing Robinson 2 weeks, it's kind of like, actually he's the guy who should be running in between the tackles. And so if they, and I've complained often in the past of them not adjusting quickly enough to obvious things.
Right.
And if they actually going to do that now, then I will praise them for looking at it and going, you know what?
And
like, we'll take the hits, and he's going to take some hits to his reputation. I think they could have handled him a little softer than allowing it to go the way it went last week, which was, you've been benched. And it was like,
yes.
And they could have gotten in the way of, I think, a little more ahead of, hey, like, we've said from the get-go this was going to be a competition. It's not like he's not going to play. Of course he's going to play. It's just that, you know, what you've seen inside the tackles, we're seeing it too, and we're shifting stuff around and we're figuring it. They let it linger the whole week where Gibson was kind of hung out to dry.
Much more, and I said this, and no one really kind of shared the same sentiment. I said this, it was probably more about Robinson actually winning the job more than Gibson losing it. Gibson just happened to have a moment where they went, oh, there's our opportunity, and Robinson's not going to be the starter.
By throwing him out there and making him return a kick, though, even though that might be the right thing to do, it felt very message-oriented.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Okay, let's all chill out. We'll all chill out.
All
right, be right back. Brainwash the Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. So let's see. Deshaun Watson got 11 games, $5 million fine. He didn't argue it. That's what they settled at because the hammer was coming down. It was going to be worse. So the NFL ended up getting probably close to what they wanted, or at least more than what they got out of the neutral arbitrator. And I think wisely, the NFLPA and the Browns and Deshaun agreed because I think this needs to end. And I'm not going to argue over whether he got the right length or not. I don't know what the number was going to be. And I've talked to a lot of people about it. And whenever they say, you know, I'm just like, what? Give me a number you think is appropriate, and nobody has an answer for that.
That's right.
Right? There's no such thing. But he did get punished. He is paying a lot of money. I don't know what he paid the massage therapists in settlements. So deal with it, people. We got to move on, right? This is how Cleveland's moving on. It's a little too soon. Let's see.
Dive right in.
At the Browns-Eagles game, there's two fan bases that know how to deal with situations like this really well. I think it was in Philly. Was it in Philly? I don't remember. Anyway, let's see. Some MMA fighter named Scotty Weaver went to a game with what looks to be his son with two signs. And I guess he took this picture down, but people, of course, screenshotted it and showed it.
Because guess what? Internet's forever, baby.
He's wearing a Watson jersey. This looks like, I can't tell where they are. I see people in Eagles and Browns gear. He's holding up a sign. He's wearing a Watson jersey, and his sign says, F them hoes. And this is a child standing next to him holding a sign that says Free Watson.
What?
Yeah. How do you think that that's the right thing to do?
Yeah.
What normal human adult thinks that's the right thing to do? It's not funny.
I wish I could be surprised that somebody did that, but I guess I'm not at this point.
This guy might be one of the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life.
I would agree with you.
You know, and like, it's large letters colored in with magic markers, which means it took them a while to make this.
Yes.
Like, it's full block lettering.
Not on a whim.
Yeah. While he's sitting next to his child, he didn't think twice when he's writing the F word on a giant sign that he plans to take into a stadium. And he has to explain to the child what hoes are. You, sir, you're the moron of the year.
I'm looking at the picture now. And
it's utterly ridiculous.
Bleep-eating grins, both of them.
Yes. Well, the kid's just like, this is the greatest. Let's see. First Energy Stadium, they were out. They were in Cleveland. That's where the game was.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside the stadium, the T-shirts were being sold. This one guy's got a T-shirt that he's selling outside that says the B word, and then underneath it says, "Give me a massage."
Yeah, boy.
Who would buy that?
Right. That's actually my first reaction of who's actually spending that guy money for that shirt.
I don't care what the price is. Who's buying that?
Right.
Would you wear that?
Right.
This is crazy.
Also,
at what point can you just say there's a level of appropriate behavior that needs to be maintained here? And in both of these things, it's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, are you mentally ill?
right.
How do you think this is appropriate?
Right.
How do you not see this as serious? How do you use the word hose with an 8-year-old kid standing next to you?
Well, the F word, too.
Like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Why would you defend that? Even if you're a Browns fan, how are you defending this?
How did I've got a bigger question of they're on the concourse in the picture. How did they get those signs in?
Right. I don't know. How did they get those signs in?
Like, I've been to so many sporting events. I've been to WWE.
Nope.
Yeah, right.
I used to do when I was at ESPN. We did. We were on the Sports Center right before College Game Day,
right.
And they did the sweep.
Not only that,
you saw the signs that got through. You should have seen the ones that didn't.
Well, and they would also do this thing in WWE where even if your sign did make it through security, they would say, "All right, everybody, hold up your signs," and that was like a oh, we're not like. I had one of my signs confiscated one time. Someone from the company ran up and said, "We need your sign."
Yeah.
And I was like, all right.
Here you go.
Here you go.
Here you go.
Wasn't that bad, but whatever. Like,
did it say F them hoes?
No, did not.
Oh, okay.
Did not.
You did not make that sign?
It was actually a fire this guy.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah.
They didn't like that.
They didn't like it because it was someone in production. So it was pretty good, actually. People were cheering when it got taken away.
Cheering.
But I'm just saying, how do those make it through?
I don't know. Let's see. There were Eagles fans that showed up wearing T-shirts with Deshaun Watson's body and a Bill Cosby head on it.
Oh, God.
And on the back it said, "No more happy endings." And security made them turn that inside out.
Okay, so if they were clearly looking for stuff, then how did those signs get through?
What did you think of his ridiculous apology, non-apology?
Nothing burger again. This guy has taken no responsibility for anything.
Sally Jenkins, she's incredible at takedowns.
And
Friday,
really, right? Yeah, Friday.
Yeah. She was just like, "Dude, you're the worst," and took him down pretty hard. I think at some point, if you're going to apologize for something, just stick to the apology.
Right.
Why do you need to qualify your apologies? I apologize for triggering people? Come on, man.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Really? So do I guess. I apologize for triggering you. Not for my behavior, just how my behavior might have triggered you.
Absurd.
This guy, all the legal stuff I think is over. Why can't he just say, "Hey, I'm sorry," and that's it?
Right.
Just leave it at that. I won't do it again. I'm done with this. 11 games, $5 million, learn my lesson. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to do that. No, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not really sorry. I'm kind of sorry. I'm sorry about the part where I have to talk to you and apologize. That's what I'm sorry for. I'm not sorry for anything else. I didn't do anything wrong. Then why are you paying $5 million? Well, people got triggered. Triggered by what?
Well, the NFL, too. The NFL did leave the door open. Be careful over there. The NFL did leave it open over there by saying you need to go, get professional help.
Yes.
He could have gone that route. They were begging him to take that route.
I'm going to get professional help. What do you need professional help for? Triggering people? I'm going to triggering rehab. I trigger people.
Triggering rehab.
This guy. He hasn't learned his lesson yet.
No.
Not even. After all of this, he still hasn't learned his lesson. You got sued by 25 people. You got suspended 11 games. You paid whatever the settlement is. Who knows what you paid Rusty Harden?
Right.
What was that? $1 million?
Right.
This went on for a year and a half. This guy's thick, man.
I'll be very interested.
You just cannot get it through his head.
I'll be very interested to see what the reaction is for him coming back to Houston, one. And then.
Oh, that ought to be good. What are those signs going to be?
Right. And then two, do NFL fans actually keep it up with him when he goes to other stadiums?
Well, I think the Houston one's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
And because it's Houston.
Right.
And then what do you think is going to happen when he comes here?
Right.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Nothing. I mean, it's going to be 6-7 weeks later at that point.
I don't know. I think some fans.
I mean, we'll be careful with the field mic that day, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, you probably should be.
Be a little careful with that one.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Okay. I'll be right back. Bram Weinstein Show, ESPN 630, Sports Capital. So I saw you tweeted out that you had watched the Manti Te'o documentary called Untold. I saw it as well. 2-part thing on the controversy of the former Notre Dame linebacker who got catfished by someone who claimed to be his girlfriend. This went on for a long time. The person who claimed to be the girlfriend then made up an elaborate death for the girlfriend. Manti Te'o believed this to have occurred, stayed in touch with so-called family members of his deceased girlfriend, and then found out around the Heisman Trophy ceremony after they played in the national championship game, and this was a major national story of which he talked about how his grandmother and the girlfriend died, and it was motivating him throughout the season.
Died on the same day.
Yes, died on the same day. And then a report came out because it was found that she never existed. And he then had to try to explain this and became the literal butt of every joke on earth. And I would say it probably derailed his NFL career.
Sure.
I'm sure that was not an easy thing to walk into the league with. He ended up not being a first-round pick, I think largely because this became a massive controversy. It dominated him at the combine. Yep. And it's probably very hard. I can only imagine how hard that is to explain. He does a very long, in-depth interview about it. The person who catfished him does a very long, in-depth interview about it. And then there's a lot of others, including the people from Deadspin, who figured out the story.
Yeah.
And they go through the whole piece of how elaborately they went through every detail before they actually released the whole thing and explained their motivations for releasing the thing. And it turned him into a national laughingstock. And for a while, people were wondering, why was he part of something he made up? Because it was so unbelievable. And I think the thing that really stood out to me, too, was when they asked him about being catfished, the first thing he said was, let's talk about this. No one knew what that was when this happened, and you have to remember that. That, his incident that became national news bore out a word, a term, and actually a television show that was popular called Catfish.
Yeah, it was a movie, then turned into a
yes.
show. Yep.
So I felt bad for him after watching this, especially the part where he seems like a genuinely nice guy who genuinely believed that he had a girlfriend on the internet, albeit as the thing is going. Now, granted, you know the ending, but as it's going along, the fact that he never FaceTimed with her, never video chatted, never met her in person, should to me have been a massive red flag. He seems like someone who is very devout and believes people and trusts people, and it is hard not to feel terrible for him because he became, if you just say his name now, what's the first thing you think of? Nobody thinks of the fact that he was the runner-up as a linebacker for the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
They think about his fake girlfriend.
Right.
It's terrible.
No, I mean, and I actually, I don't know, are we ruining anything by talking about his feelings towards them if you still want to watch the documentary?
I don't think so. I mean, everybody knows the story.
Yeah.
This, honestly, you're going in, you know it. It's just but you will get. It's very well done,
and I would just say
it's
this:
very good.
This is a guy that could feel so bitter towards everybody, that could hate everybody, and I wouldn't blame him for a second for doing it. And he's the complete opposite. He's like, if the people that if the person that did this to me is watching, I forgive them. I hope their family's doing well. He went almost too nice. I couldn't believe there wasn't an ounce of animosity towards now Naya, I think is her name.
Yes.
Sopo. I forget what her original name was.
I mean, the spoiler is this was a guy by the name of Renaya.
That's right, Renaya.
Tuiasosopo, who actually has a lineage of NFL players, and they go through the players that are in this guy's family.
Right.
She's transitioned to a woman.
Yes.
And that's the part that's new.
Yeah.
And she does the interview as Naya.
Yeah.
She's because it's modern now.
Here's the thing that I actually didn't like about the entire overlay of it. They interviewed her. She did not apologize ever, by the way. she did not show much remorse.
No.
If any, at all.
No,
And
she's
in
a
fact-
disturbed person.
And in
the
fact,
things that she did are disturbing. And she admits she knew what she was doing was wrong on some
Yeah.
level, but did it anyway and can't really explain why.
Right. And then also, they don't explicitly say this, but they really try to blame what she did on her transition. And that made me feel kind of like, those are two separate things that happened here. Don't mold them into one. Like, she talked about how, like, she wanted to be a woman, and this kind of, like, helped that along, I guess.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it right. Just because you're trying to figure out who you are doesn't mean it's okay to scam somebody.
Right.
Like that,
I mean,
that's
look.
right. That's where I came across this. And look, the people who produced it, they honestly didn't try to. I feel like there was really no narrative. They just kind of let them speak for themselves. But there was a little too much of like, oh, she's very peaceful in her own skin now. I don't care. Manti Te'o lost out on millions of dollars
That's right.
because you screwed up his mental well-being and nobody looked at him the same after a certain point. Like,
Yes.
I wanted more justice for Manti after all of it, and I didn't really get any of
And
that.
the weird part is, like, you know, because I was sitting there, like, all along, and I remember, you know, when this was happening, and I was working in the national media at the time, and it became a massive deal.
Right.
And they showed, like, all the nighttime shows were talking about it, and the news shows were, I mean, it was a massive, massive deal. Like, you know, and I still have a hard time with this part of it. Like, how did you have a girlfriend that you never met or literally saw
Yeah.
for years? Like, that's preposterous to me. That said, like, the weird part about it is, and this is why I think he's just kind of genuinely a nice guy, and I feel bad for him, it wasn't like this person was scamming him for money or gifts.
Right.
It really was literally an attention thing.
Yes.
It had nothing, like, it'd be one thing if it was just like, what, you didn't figure out when she asked for a car?
That's right.
That
Yeah,
you
yeah.
never
Yeah,
met her, and
exactly.
now you're buying her a car, or she asked for money because someone is quote unquote sick in her family. Like, none of that ever happened. Like, there's none of the, I bought this person gifts, I bought them trips, I bought them, none of that. Like, none of, and he was clearly heading that way. So it's weird. It's such a weird story. This person really just liked being this fake personality and enjoyed the attention of having someone who was truly in love with her. Like, and that's it.
Yeah. And
It's weird.
He does
Like,
mention this during the documentary, that he said he had trouble dating other women because they never really adhered to his schedule, because he was constantly training, as you said. He was devout Christian, like you're Catholic. He
Latter-day Saints, I think is what
okay,
it was.
that's
Yeah.
what it was. Okay,
I think so, yeah. Because they made a deal of,
that's
like,
right, that's
would
right,
he fit
yes.
in at Notre Dame because he chose to
That's
go,
right.
he's Latter-day Saints. Yeah.
And he harped on it for at least a second, saying, like, I had trouble dating people because they didn't realize that, like, when I'm unavailable, I'm really unavailable and I'm doing my own thing. And I think that's where he fell into a routine with somebody.
Yes.
And even though he didn't meet them, I also want to say this too, like, you couldn't just FaceTime back then either. That didn't exist, I don't think. Like, I think you could video chat,
You
but
could
it wasn't
video chat
but
to
it wasn't-
Facebook, I think.
But it still
which is where a
wasn't-
lot of this relationship was happening.
But it still wasn't the same as it was now, where you can literally pick
Yeah.
up your phone and hit a button and you're face to face with somebody like that. Like, this was a little more. We were at that, like, transition point where FaceTime was literally a year or two away, I think, and that way that really would have easily solved everything.
The
But-
idea, though, that you would be in a relationship to that degree without ever having been face to face with someone seems preposterous.
I
to
agree,
me.
but then you
It
also
just
hear
does.
that they talked on the phone all the time, and the
And-
voice that he
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
was
Right.
insanely good. Like, Dr. Phil makes an appearance on
Dr.
that.
Phil makes an appearance on it. Yes.
Like,
You know, and then the other thing too, like, and then the other part for him, you know, he got accused of being gay because it ended up being a guy. Right. And so here's the tricky part with that. Probably in his community, probably in his religion, you know, whether he is or he isn't, that's a difficult position to be in.
That's right.
You know, unfortunately. And that's just reality. So now it's a double whammy.
Right.
You're dumb for being duped by a guy who's pretending to be a girl that you never met and you're in love with, and then dedicated a season to her fake death.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be a guy, which means, are you gay? Because we've actually never seen you with a woman, so let's start asking these questions of you. I mean, I can't even imagine.
And the mainstream,
I can't. And then the mainstream media has got helicopters flying over your house wondering, are you part of this scam? Why would you be?
Right. The other mainstream media jump, too, was one that I had just forgotten about until I watched, was the people speculating, oh, well, you wanted everyone to seem like you had a girlfriend because you are gay. Like, it went, it went the other lane of like, oh, well, you already knew he was a guy, but you wanted everyone to seem like you were dating somebody so they don't find out that you're gay. Like, Katie Couric asked him on TV, are you gay? Like, what?
Yeah. Yes.
It's a completely different time 10 years ago. I mean, that's
the whole thing. It's the whole thing's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I just want to say the takeaway from it all is that he's a bigger man than a lot of people that I've ever met. I mean, he's taken it all in stride.
What I wanted to yell at him, though, when I saw these interviews, like, all I really wanted to say to him was, like, why were you so gullible?
He's a nice guy.
Is really that, like,
That's really what it boiled down to.
Yeah. I mean,
he
like,
was a nice guy. That's what it was.
I guess.
That's what after coming off of how he acts after all this, I still say, wow, you are just such a nice dude.
Yeah.
And this is why you got in this situation, essentially.
Yeah, because he just believed this. It's not. The whole thing's nuts. And then there is this one part where it's like you would believe it after the guy who's scamming him sent him this picture from the real girl, like got the real girl, of which he's used the pictures of to send this picture to him to try to verify that she's real. The whole thing's nuts. I mean, it's just really nuts. But the documentary's great. Yeah, 2-part series. It is really well done. All right, we'll take a quick break. Bram, watch the show. ESPN 630 Sports Capital.